Hi, this is Dr. Kerry Johnson. As you know, I'm an MBA level psychologist, so I tend to overthink many things. But one of the things that I've discovered over the past couple of years are the key words and key phrases people use that have special meaning to them. And when they're your client, they want you to use those words back to them. When I was in high school, in college, I had some very good friends, and every time something went crazy, we called it fisteris. Oh, that was real fisteris. Or I can't believe that guy went so fisteris. Kind of meant crazy. But you know, that's not without precedent, because in World War II, the American soldiers used a word called foobar. I'm not going to repeat that on camera, but it was totally messed up beyond belief. And it was actually a term that they used for a lot of things back in those days. You know, if I gave you the names Marita, Stacy, Caroline, Catherine, you probably would think of those as just nice women's words. But those words mean to me, Marita with 25 years of marriage, Stacy, who's my 33-year-old working for the Chamber of Commerce, Catherine, who's going to nursing school in the fall, Caroline, who's finishing up school. These are very important words with enormous meaning and intent in my life. People use words and phrases in a certain way that means amazing and important stuff to them. But they'll let you know they're key words because they'll do a technique called marking out. I love to use the phrase brain dead. So for example, unless you're brain dead, you're going to understand that. And sometimes I use a phrase, unless you're below room temperature in IQ, then you're going to, those are just kind of fun things. I don't say this seriously, but I do a technique called marking out. So unless you're brain dead, then you really have to pay attention to this. Unless your IQ was below room temperature, this is something you might want to write down. Remember back in the old days, in the 70s and 80s, and I certainly am old enough to remember that, people actually use their fingers to mark out. Unless you're brain dead, you know, these days we don't do anything quite that obtuse. But now we still mark out things by pausing right before and pausing right afterwards, or we accentuate it. Unless you're brain dead, then you know it's a key word, a key phrase. And those things are really important. Very early in my career, I was in Boston trying to book myself as a speaker for a big company called Cigna Insurance. And I was at the senior vice president's office. His name was Bob Turner. And he said, Kerry, if I have you speak to my leader meeting, what will you do? What topic will you give? I said, Bob, what would you like me to do? I was going to be caught with that. He said, well, let me tell you what I want you to do. I want you to go beyond the 9 dots. And he paused right before, right afterwards, and he accentuated it. Well, you've heard of the 9 dots before. You take 9 dots in a sheet of paper, you have to connect all the dots without taking your pen off the paper, and it actually makes an arrow. For this guy, though, it was a complete metaphor. For him, it was be creative, do something fun, and that's where thinking outside the box came from, which is another key phrase, by the way, thinking outside the box. Well, he went on for another 10 minutes, and he went through CRMs and DDIs and BBDs and EIOs, and I didn't understand a word this guy said, until finally after 10 minutes he looked at me and he just stared at me like this, and he said, so, you've heard enough. What will you do for us? I said, Bob, I'm going to go beyond the 9 dots. He said, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want. Now, what if I had talked to him about all the benefits, the features, the things I would do normally as a speaker? Would that have any impact on him? What he wanted to hear was beyond the 9 dots, because he already had a definition in his mind of exactly what that meant. We have a technique called bridging. And our technique is really interesting. It's basically we listen to what needs are, and if we get 3 needs, there's a very high likelihood people will do business with us. We recap those needs using their words. We trial close those needs. It kind of works like this. So let me get this straight. If we can help you avoid running out of money during retirement, will that help? Let me get this straight. If we could keep your payments exactly where they are, but help you build equity faster, did I really hear that right? Is that what you want? Using exactly their words. Let me give you an example. When someone says, well, I just want to make sure I I don't run out of money during retirement. It doesn't mean I don't want to have volatility. It means I don't want to run out of money during retirement. If someone says I don't want to end up working at Walmart, it doesn't mean I want to make my money last as long as I do. It means I want to avoid working at Walmart. Those key phrases are critical for people. If someone says, well, I want to make sure my grandkids graduate, it doesn't mean you want a legacy for your family. It means I want to make sure my grandkids graduate. These things are critically important. There's one technique I use during my coaching program. It's called the less assumed technique. I can boil all the information I have into just one question, which gives me a chance to find out exactly what people want to buy, and most of the time, exactly how people want to buy it. It's called the less assumed technique. So the way I use it during consulting or my coaching program is I'll actually say to somebody after our 20-minute evaluation, let's assume you've been coaching for a year. What happened during that year to let you know coaching was a really good investment and you and I had a great relationship and personally I did a good job for you? What happened? I'm listening for three things. Number one, I'm listening for them to tell me what they want, and I will not interrupt them because I want them to continue. Number two, I'm going to drill down to tangible things that I can do. And number three, you guessed it, I'm going to trial close the same thing using their words. So let's assume it's a year. What happened? Well, I was able to get control of my life. I was able to increase my income. I was able to have more fun. Second technique, well, get control of your life. What does that mean? That means I don't have to work more than 8 hours a day. What does increase your income mean? That kind of means that I'm making $200,000 a year. Now, when I go back and trial close, I said, so what you really want to do is work 8 hours a day and make $200,000 a year. Did I get all that right? If I can use their words, I promise you they'll sell themselves. And your prospect clients will sell themselves also, but you got to get their words. Let me tell you one quick story before we end this video. I was trying to be interviewed as a speaker for a big convention. And I said to the meeting planner, what would you really like a speaker to do that was really successful? He actually said, we want you to do three things. Number one, if you're the speaker for us, inform. Number two, increase business. And number three, we want the attendees to have a lot of fun. And that sounded a lot like something I usually present. Well, I could definitely do that. What I do is I make sure that people participate during the program consistently. Number two, they walk away with things they can use all the time. And number three, we always make sure that during my presentations, they're really entertaining. The meeting planner actually said, no, that's not it. And I thought, uh-oh, I missed their keywords. No, you're right. I misunderstood that. What you really want most is for the speaker that presents in front of your group to inform, increase business, and for the group to have fun. The meeting planner actually said, that's exactly what we like you to do. Can you do it? I said, sure, no problem. And they hired me on the spot. The key words people use are critical. Don't translate into what you think they said. Use exactly their words.